Ladies and gentlemen, kicking off the first stop on his world tour, our new president and prophet, Russell M. Nelson! You say you want some revelation, well, here you go. It's gonna blow your freaking mind.
Greetings, brothers and sisters. Welcome to the weekly Mormon News Roundup. I'm your humble host, D-Base, talent on loan from Kolob. I'm bringing you this podcast with half the Kinderhook Plates tied behind my back just to make it fair. Now, my crew and I, we ruminate weekly on the great and spacious beehive, so thanks so much for joining us to discuss the current events in Mormondom. We have a huge episode for you. It's November 17th, 2023. This is episode 85. The Ballard and Ballard zaniness continues. Now, the Mormon Church AP sexual abuse case just wrapped up. It was huge last summer. It's taken that long to get through the court system. We're going to bring you the final conclusion of that horrible tragedy. Elder Soares gave a YouTube interview to a YouTuber, which is very interesting. We're going to give you the details on that. And President Nelson has given us an inspired update on his current state of health that you're not going to want to miss. And finally, the Jesus Legacy Park in Heber is sparking quite a bit of concerns. Now, if you want to get in touch with me, I'm at www.MormonNewsRoundup.org, or you can send me an email to Kolob@MormonNewsRoundup.org. That's Kolob @MormonNewsRoundup.org. And I'd like to welcome onto the program my longtime co-host, Al. Al, how you doing?
I'm here, Your Honor. I'm live. I'm ready to go forward. I'm not a cat. I got this avatar and I love it.
Very nice. That is a great avatar. What do you have in the background there?
It looks like I'm sitting in my living room with my wife checking in on me, wondering what it is I'm doing.
Okay, well,
it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I think it is pretty accurate. Well, welcome back to the program. Great to have you on. You know, over half of the Mormon News Roundup episodes had you as the co-host. We would not be here without you or your cat.
And I'm really glad to be able to come back every now and again. I really enjoy doing the Mormon News Roundup. This has always been fun.
Tremendous. Great to have you on. And that does bring us to our joke of the week here, which you've got here for us, Al. And it's this cartoon here by Pat Bagley about the Tim Ballard scandal. Here we have Tim Ballard, conjurer extraordinaire. He's doing the 3-card Monty there. And we have Sean Reyes and Elder Ballard with the tithing records. Amazing. How do we get in on this action?
Oh, yeah. A real shell game, right?
Yes. Just
I thought it's fitting.
Absolutely. Just 3 peas in a pod right there, Al. I think that's very inspiring.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Now, that's going to bring us to our first article of the week here, which is very, very interesting. And it's first, have you been following this? The planned Heber City Park is going to honor the Book of Mormon, its U.S. founding, and it raises talk of Christian nationalism. We covered this just a little bit here last week, Al, but this is very, very interesting stuff here. The picture, it's been turned, there's like 50 acres on here, 10 acres. This was from a private donation near Utah Valley University's Wasatch campus in Heber. And this is called the Monument of the Americas, where the public can learn more about the Book of Mormon and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. There's going to be a visitor center. There's going to be an amphitheater. This is going to be one heck of an experience, Al. What do you think about the Legacy Jesus Park?
Oh, boy. I think, well, when you got that kind of money, you can do pretty much whatever you want to do. And the church, this isn't the first time that the church has shown that and flexed its muscles in Heber. That being said, I think there's better uses for this spot. I don't know. I'm a big fan of the International Peace Garden in Salt Lake City. Yeah, I wish they would have done something more like that.
That is a nice peace garden. I really enjoy that. It's got a nice special spirit. Now, this park here is by private donations. It's not officially part of the church, but you're right. This is going to be a multi-million-dollar operation here, and you wonder what those multi-million dollars could have done other than have a monument to Mormonism. And that got me thinking, Al, about what would I like to see as far as this particular Christ in America's Legacy Park. Now, if I was going to go to this park, Al, I've got a few ideas on what I would like to see at this park, and I was hoping you could be the first person to take our poll.
Please, let's do it.
Okay, so here is, and by the way, we release all of our episodes live on Sunday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you join us in the live chat at that time, you can take our poll along with us. So for those of you in the live chat, our last episode had 200 people in the live chat, which was our all-time high. We're hoping to eclipse that today. So let's go through these examples here. And number one, Al, what is the first item that I have suggested for you for this park?
It looks like a statue of Captain Moroni riding his beloved horse.
Oh, that is inspiring. You know that?
that picture looks pretty authentic.
That's a handsome steed, by the way.
It sure is. Who doesn't love a big old tapir?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think they should put that picture in the front of every Book of Mormon, along with the Arnold Freiberg pictures. You know those in the front?
Yep, for sure.
I think it should be on every single chapel wall as well, because that really would get the kids really thinking about it. And that is a handsome, handsome horse, which reminds me, if you go on over to Reddit and you go to Our Horse, it's been taken over by Mormon trolls, by the way, and all of the pictures are of tapirs, and people keep going on to that subreddit who really like horses, and they're like, what is the deal? What? There's no horses here. It's all tapirs. So,
that's funny.
Yeah, so whoever claimed the Our Horse on Reddit was a Mormon, and it's turned it into nothing but tapir worship, and it makes people mad all the time, like, what is the tapir deal? But anyway, that's my first. That's what I want to see first. Or how about number two, Al?
All right, the second one would be Joseph Smith surrounded by his 33 hot wives.
That would be a nice diorama to see. You know, Joseph Smith surrounded 33 of his wives around him. A nice diorama. Maybe think like Chuck E. Cheese, like animatronics. What do you think, Al?
I think that's not too bad. You know, especially Chuck E. Cheese animatronics. That adds the creepy vibe that it would be missing otherwise.
Well, if you have enough donations, you could even have live actors. It's just tough to get a lot of 14-year-old girls there. I don't know what the child labor laws are, but live actors would be good too.
And school truancy laws and all that, yeah.
Yeah, maybe just animatronics is the best way to go. Or how about number three?
Three, inspiring story of 3rd Nephi chapter 9, how Jesus killed thousands and didn't lose a moment's sleep.
Yeah, with all those volcanoes and the earthquakes and the tsunamis, that'd be an inspiring thing to see brought to the screen. What do you think, Al?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he just obliterated so many people. And, well, I mean, to be fair, he was going through a tough time himself. He had just been crucified, and, you know, that's painful from what I hear.
Yeah, and then the next day he appeared to them and gave them an inspiring message, and not one person, for some reason, asked him about the thousands of people that he just killed the day prior. But that is an inspiring story that I would just love to see at this legacy park.
Yeah, good thing that all the people he killed didn't have loved ones, friends, families that were concerned.
Apparently not, because that doesn't make it into the Book of Mormon. How about number four?
Number four, we don't do racism anymore exhibit.
Yes.
Yeah. Not since 1978, right?
Absolutely not. We don't do racism anymore exhibit. I think that would be a real testimony builder. What do you think, Al?
I think that one's a great one. Yeah.
Absolutely. How about number five?
Sorry, you're not a Lamanite.
Oh, you missed out on that. That's the thing, is you could have a Lamanite exhibit, but we don't know who the Lamanites are. But we can say, sorry, you're not a Lamanite exhibit.
Yeah.
Because, I think that would be good. What do you think?
Yeah, because they've come out and said that the Lamanite or the Lamanites are not Native Americans, or the Native Americans are not Lamanites.
Yeah, so much for the Lamanite generation. Sorry about that. You're not a Lamanite. I think that'd be a nice exhibit. Or how about number six?
The inspiring history of the Adam God doctrine.
You know, that's the one.
Fun.
Yeah, that's the one Gospel Topics essay, by the way, Al, that is missing, by the way, is the Adam God doctrine. Because why do you think that, by the way, is the one Gospel Topics essay that's not in there? What do you think?
Well, I think that it's really hard to say that Brigham Young was only speaking as a man and, giving his fallible opinion when in the quote he says, I am speaking as the mouthpiece of God. I am speaking as a prophet. 'Cause it's a little difficult to justify that otherwise.
Yeah, it's hard to put the spin on that one, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's why I want to see this at this Jesus Legacy Park. That's the one that I'd really like to see. Or how about number seven?
Number seven, the Book of Mormon archaeology display. Wide open spaces. Yeah.
Now that's the cheapest. That's the cheapest exhibit, by the way. Some of those exhibits could be kind of expensive, but this one is going to be cheap, very cost effective.
Yeah, but it's the Heber City Valley. There's plenty of money up there. I don't think we need to worry about cost on this one, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, since this is such a cheap exhibit, even I'd be willing to shell in for this one, since I don't think it's going to be too expensive to put that one together.
Yeah, you and me both.
Yeah, definitely. How about number 8?
The satanic evils of drinking coffee.
Ooh, that could be that could be a good exhibit too. You show all of the white and delightsome people drinking water, and then in the Book of Mormon, all of the loathsome and filthy Lamanites drinking satanic coffee. I think that'd be a nice contrast to show. That's just my opinion. Now, I could be wrong.
I think that's it's certainly a valid display. But I'll tell you, I just love coffee too much.
Well, the thing about coffee in Utah is it's a Class A controlled substance. I don't know if they can get it into the exhibit, so I might have to do some research and something.
And I think it's probably a public mental health crisis too.
Absolutely. How about number 9?
Number 9, the Mountain Meadows Massacre. How it all somehow builds faith, anyways.
Yeah, everything. That's a great thing about the Legacy Park in Heber, Al, is that no matter what is in there, it's going to build your faith.
Yep, that's what it's all designed to do, right?
You bet. Or finally, number 10.
A reminder that legacy parks ain't cheap.
No, there's going to be a massive donation station there to keep this thing going. Donate or die, Al.
Exactly, yeah.
And that does bring us to our cast your votes in the live chat at this time. For those of you out there, now we release these episodes onto Spotify. We release them on Apple Podcasts, but we're also on YouTube. Can you cast your votes in the live chat at this time for what you want to see at the Jesus Legacy Park in Heber? And Al, can you be the first one to take our poll?
Absolutely. I'm voting for number 6, the history of the Adam God doctrine. I really want to see how they would interpret that and put it out there.
That does sound very inspiring. For me, it's definitely number 1. Captain Moroni riding on his beloved horse. That's what I would really like to see in Heber.
Very inspiring.
You bet. Now, Al, that does take us to our first real article of the week here. And this is a Brazilian YouTuber has interviewed Elder Soares, who talks about his apostolic calling. Into an interview with Plano Piloto podcast, Elder Soares talks about the Church of Jesus Christ, its history, its worldwide growth, and his calling as an apostle. I do find this very interesting because Elder Soares frequently goes on to very friendly media interviews. And the substance of this particular interview, I think, is really, really fascinating. The YouTuber asks him why they're called Mormons. Wow, what a question. What do you think, Al?
Wow, that's a good question because it seems like they have used the term, or at least changed the term to mean that it's a derogatory term, which is something I never really heard prior to President Nelson's reign.
Yeah,
but that's a fair question. Why are we called Mormons if now we're not supposed to be called Mormons?
That's my question here, Al. Can't you just Google why they're called Mormons? I'm sorry, you're sitting with one of the head leaders of the church, and you say, "Why are you called Mormons?" Can you not look in Wikipedia to find the answer to that?
Well, we're not going to do any homework. I guess this is his version of going to Wikipedia. Call up an apostle and ask him directly.
I guess so. And the difference is here is also says, what makes you different from other religions? I'm sorry, once again. Is Google just not available to? I don't know that much about Brazil and their ability to look on the web here. What the difference is between the church and other religions? Can you not just look that up? I'm sorry, Al. These questions. Wow. I mean, come on.
Yeah, now it's starting to look like the modern day version of the what were those late night promo ads that would run for like half an hour, just telling you about the latest greatest blender and stuff.
Infomercials? You mean like infomercials?
That's what it is. This is a modern day infomercial.
Yeah, and then here is the next question here. Why does the church have missionaries? Al, I don't know. Maybe to convert people? What do you think the answer to that question is, Mr. YouTuber? Can you possibly imagine why the church has missionaries?
I know why other churches send missionaries out. I mean, usually it's some sort of humanitarian project or some way of just charitable purpose. But with the LDS church's missionaries, it seems that they mostly just spend their time going door to door, being seen in public and recruiting wherever they can.
Yeah, so I mean, this is literally the biggest softball interview that I have ever seen of all time. This dude could literally have just Googled all of the answers to every single one of these questions. You could literally it's on Wikipedia, man. You wasted this interview completely.
Oh, absolutely. But then again, I'm not sure that Elder Soares, I'm sure that all of these questions were pre-vetted, and that he wouldn't have agreed to it if there was anything harder than where did the term Mormon come from?
Yeah, I do. Let me run you by. This article really got me thinking, because what questions would I have for Elder Soares? And I just want to run these past you, and I'll get your thoughts on if these are good questions or not. I'm not a journalist. I'm a seatless editorial podcaster. But these are the questions that I would ask for him, and you let me know if you think these questions are any good. So my question number one, Elder Soares, what was your specific role in signing off on the Ensign Peak shell companies that eventually led to the SEC fining the church $5 million? What was your specific role?
Wow, you should be a journalist. That's a good one.
Or okay, I'll go with number two. I got about 10 questions here. Does your role, Elder Soares, in the church's decades-long fraudulent disclosures negate your teachings about the importance of being honest and ethical?
Ooh, that one, that's a touchy one, isn't it?
Yeah, or how about this? Why have you taken absolutely no personal responsibility or spoken publicly about the church's fine since it happened 2 years ago?
Yeah, they've been pretty quiet about that. That's a good question. These are things we want to know.
Yeah, or how about this? We're going to get into the AP sexual abuse later on in today's episode, but I would ask him about that. I would say, Elder Soares, what was with regards to the AP sexual abuse scandal in Arizona that just concluded? What was your specific role with regards to the way that the so-called Bishop's Helpline worked? Were you involved with that? And if so, how?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Especially right now. These are things that are based on current events and current topics of interest when researching the Mormon Church, or LDS Church, as the church would prefer to be called. But he's missing out on all these good questions.
Yeah, and I doubt that any of these questions the church would allow them to be asked. That's the thing about it,
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. Okay. A couple other questions that I would ask Elder Soares. Why doesn't the church require basic $20 background checks for those working with children, like virtually every other religious organization in the world?
Well, this is also coming from a church that every Christmas likes to put out their own vending machines that says, "Hey, donate to humanitarian aid and good causes." But really, all that the church has done is covered the cost of the vending machines. I always think it's funny when you have a billionaire asking for donations.
Well, I mean, the church, I believe in the last year, the church raised, I think it was $25 million using the giving machines, which definitely covers the cost and some. There's no doubt about it. But what I want to see in the giving machine is the ability to select $20 to say, I'm going to pay $20 so that the next bishop or the next primary leader can have a background check. How about we put that into the giving machine?
I like that. Then I'd probably donate.
Exactly. Okay, a couple last questions I would ask Elder Soares. There's the James Huntsman lawsuit, which is has some legitimate, it has been legitimized by the circuit court. We also have last week's lawsuit. How do you feel about the legitimate concerns raised in these and similar lawsuits, specifically regarding the use of tithing for the City Creek Mall, despite President Hinckley's assurances and Bishop Budge's admission acknowledging the church is repeatedly lying on the Form 990s?
Wow, that's a kidney punch.
I'm going for the jugular here. Okay,
you sure are.
Well, I have a lot of questions, as you might imagine. Okay, two last questions here. Elder Soares, you're sustained as a prophet, seer, and revelator. Why don't you ever prophesy, reveal, or see anything of substance that could be useful to the world?
Oh, you really need to be in journalism.
I guess I'm just a wannabe. And my final question here really is, what is the single greatest piece of objective, verifiable evidence that confirms the truthfulness of the church? Not a claim, not a testimony, an objective piece of verifiable evidence for the church's truth claims. Just give us your best one.
That's a question I want answered. Yeah.
That would be great. So for those of you,
and you know, that's not an unreasonable question either. That one, I think he could, you know, how's he going to say, "Oh, I'm not going to answer a question like that"? No, that why not?
absolutely. You know, for those of you out there, we released we're on Facebook, Mormon News Roundup. We're also on Instagram and we're on TikTok. Let us know what questions you would want to ask Elder Soares. Were these questions good? Were they cheap shots? What kind of information do you want to get from church leadership that we didn't get from this Brazilian YouTuber? We definitely want to know. Now, this brings us to our next article here, Al, which is the church, you know, the AP sexual abuse case. The judge has tossed out the bid for the family sexual abuse survivors to sue the church for failing to report to the police. This occurred last summer. And, you know, this is Paul Adams, who repeatedly for 7 years sexually abused both of his children. He ended up committing suicide. His wife ended up going to prison for 2.5 years as part of this. And this has been drawn out for years. And we finally see the conclusion to this. And it is a very sad conclusion. Let me play this and get your reaction, Al.
Arizona judge has dismissed a high-profile child sex abuse lawsuit against the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. In a ruling last Friday, Cochise County Superior Court judge said the state's clergy penitent privilege excused 2 bishops and several other officials with the church from the state's child sex abuse mandatory reporting law because Paul Adams initially disclosed during a confession that he was sexually abusing his daughter. Adams recorded his abuse of his daughter on video and posted the pornographic videos on the internet. The abuse stopped when Homeland Security agents arrested Adams in 2017 in Arizona after authorities in New Zealand and the United States traced one of the videos back to him. Adams died by suicide in custody while awaiting trial.
Okay, Al, what's your reaction to this clip and the conclusion of this horrific case?
It is a horrible conclusion to come to. Just because law is on the books doesn't mean that it's a good law just because something is legal. I think that the court had its hands tied in this situation. But to put the shoe on the other foot, there's a lot of LDS members who like to point out that up until recently, it was on the books in the state of Missouri, it was legal to kill and hunt Mormons. So with that being said, had somebody murdered a Mormon in the state of Missouri and then cited that law on the books, well, legally, then the courts would have to let them off. Not even charge them with manslaughter, right? But they repealed that law. This is another law that I think needs to be repealed.
Yeah, so here's another look at it here. In fact, we released this on Twitter. We're on Twitter, or I guess X. We were one of the first ones to release this because I follow the Arizona Capitol Times here. The judge tossed out the bid by family sexual abuse survivors to sue the church for failing to report to the police. So this was in Cochise County. And the Superior Court judge has thrown out the bid by the 2 surviving family members, those 2 children, against the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and 2 of its bishops for failing to report to police what they may have known about the incident. So this was a newly released ruling from Judge Timothy Dickerson, who said that there's no evidence that the church officials had independent knowledge of the abuse other than confidential communications that they had with Paul Adams. So the judge said Arizona laws that require such incidents to be reported, including by the clergy, specifically say that is overridden when the only source of information is what was divulged to them in confession of similar conversations. So the basic idea here is that Arizona has a priest penitent privilege, which means that you are not required to report to authorities when sexual abuse comes to your knowledge if it is obtained during a confessional setting, which is what the church said when it was defending itself, that the knowledge of the sexual abuse came in confessional settings. Therefore, the bishops don't have to report. And this was appealed a number of times. This was all the way up to the top here. It went to the Supreme Court. It came back down to the Superior Court. We have the final conclusion that says, yes, the law in Arizona allows the church to do exactly what it did.
And one step further, does that also mean that the ward clerks and secretaries are covered as well, that they are considered clergy?
Well, so when it went to the Supreme Court, see, the children, the lawyers who were representing the children said that the clerks and other people who were part of the disciplinary councils, that they are not covered by the priest penitent privilege because a ward clerk is not a clergy member. But the Supreme Court in Arizona said, no, they still don't have to report because a disciplinary council is considered a penitent setting. So yes, those people don't have to report either.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and from one more statement here, the church released a statement on this that says, contrary to some news reports and exaggerated allegations, the court found that the Church of Jesus Christ and its of Latter-day Saints and its clergy handled this matter consistent with Arizona law. And this was from the church's attorney, William Maladon. This was not the church's attorney here is not Kurt McConkie, but oftentimes when the church is facing legal battles in other jurisdictions, they don't use Kurt McConkie. They use a local attorney here, but it says, yep, this is a victory lap. We did everything that we were supposed to do by law.
What a middle finger. Yep. Once again, the church is walking away, holding up the bird.
Yeah, and so another Twitter reaction here that I got here from Randy the Mormon. This is from the church's statement. It says, we are pleased with the Arizona Superior Court's decision dismissing the plaintiff's claim. The court found that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and its clergy handled this matter consistent with Arizona law. So once again, the church in its statement says, we did everything that we were required to by law, and this is a great victory for the church.
Yeah, the church really loves to take victory over sexually abused children.
Yeah, that's sad. If you think back to James Faust here, I'm reading this, who was a former member of the First Presidency and a lawyer, by the way. I want to read this because I think it's very prescient. It's very applicable here. Al, will you read this to us?
Sure, I will. There is a great risk in justifying what we do individually and professionally on the basis of what is legal rather than what is right. In so doing, we put our very souls at risk. The philosophy that what is legal is also right will rob us of what is highest and best in our nature. What conduct is actually legal is, in many instances, way below the standards of a civilized society and light years below the teachings of the Christ. If you accept what is legal as your standard of personal or professional conduct, you will rob yourself of that which is truly noble in your personal dignity and worth.
So, Al, how do you feel about James Faust's statement in regards to what the church has done in Arizona?
That's a striking contrast to the words of the prophets of yesteryear versus the prophets of today. They seem to be in direct opposition with each other.
Yeah, what is legal is the bare minimum. I think James Faust is directly on this particular case. And also Randy the Mormon, he says, congrats. This is another tweet here. Congrats to the Church of Jesus Christ, Dallin Oaks, and Kurt McConkie on your hard-fought victory today. Those sexually abused little girls didn't stand a chance against you. All that lobbying with politicians for clergy penitent laws really paid off. And that hotline, just brilliant.
Yeah. Wow. I'm starting to like this Randy Mormon guy.
Yeah, here's a couple of other reactions here from Oliver Cowdery, OG Cowdery on Twitter. Those two little girls stood zero chance against the church's billions. Lots of high fives at Kurt McConkie and at the church office buildings today. Jesus is just rejoicing over the fact that those little girls got absolutely no justice for the horror that was abused on them for 7 years.
Yeah, this is exactly what, we forget that these little girls attended church as well. They were taught in primary that the bishop's there to protect them, the church is there to look after them, and the church is, their friend, their protector. But that's not what the court has shown, and that's not the attitude of the church saying, oh, well, justice prevailed.
Yeah. Now, here's another take here, because this really is a very important story, in my opinion. This received really a lot of national news last summer, and President Nelson in particular, he addressed it somewhat directly at General Conference. So the attorney for the two girls here, which you can see, here's Paul Adams, here's his wife, here's a couple of the girls here. The attorney here that was representing the girls, he's speaking out after this case has been dismissed. And he said, I have never seen such a horrific case. And I have never seen such a miscarriage of justice, Lynn Cardigan said, the attorney representing the victims. It's amazing to see the kind of vitriol that this is bringing out in the local community here. The people who know this case well, who know these two girls well, are absolutely they're absolutely appalled at the decision that we've seen here today.
It certainly turns my stomach too.
Let me play a local news clip here that talks about the reaction there in Arizona and get your thoughts on this, Al.
New at 10 tonight, an Arizona judge has dismissed the child sexual abuse lawsuit against Mormon church officials in Cochise County.
So the ruling says that church officials who knew a member was sexually abusing his daughter and had no duty, rather, to report the abuse because the information was received during a spiritual confession. Now, the attorney representing the child victim lives and works right here in Tucson. And News 4 Tucson's Megan Spector joins us live in the newsroom after speaking with the attorney this evening. Megan, what can you tell us about this case?
Well, Sean and Monica, the attorney of the victim, tells me she's heartbroken by this decision, and it's a decision she never expected.
I've never seen such a horrific case, and I've never seen such a miscarriage of justice.
The lawsuit filed by attorney Lynn Cadigan, suing the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, has been dismissed.
Over 15 grown men in that church knew that this abuse had occurred and did nothing. These are fathers. These are people who claim to care about the souls of children, and this church takes the position they have no responsibility, not their job.
The ruling excused the state's child sex abuse mandatory reporting law because the information was received during a spiritual confession. So even though church officials knew, the judge decided they had no duty to report the abuse given the circumstance of how the information was heard.
For 7 years, this girl was raped by her dad all the time. She would go to church. She would sit next to a bishop who knew that her father was a rapist and a pornographer, and they did nothing. They didn't call, they didn't report, they did nothing. This ruling sends a clear message to the state of Arizona that children in these religions, confessional religions, are not safe.
A statement from the church said in part, quote, "We are pleased with the Arizona Superior Court's decision granting summary judgment for the church and its clergy and dismissing the plaintiff's claims. The court found that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and its clergy handled this matter consistent with Arizona law." Tears forming in Cadigan's eyes, she tells me she's devastated for these children to hear that decision.
Their parents failed them. Their teachers failed them. Their doctor failed them. Their bishop, their religion failed them. And now I have to tell them that the courts failed them as well.
As for the parents, Paul Adams died in suicide in custody, while awaiting his trial, and his wife Lisa served 2 years and then was released in 2020. But the victim's attorney, Lynn Cadigan, tells me this case is not over. She's going to appeal this decision, and she says she'll do everything she can to get justice.
Al, I mean, this is one of the worst cases that you could really come across, and it just what is your reaction to the heartfelt testimony of the victim's lawyer here?
If you're watching this, you probably ought to rewind and look at the reactions of these lady reporters. I see it very clearly in these ladies that are reporting on this. They're doing their best to hide their disgust, but it's a very thin napkin covering that disgust. This is a disgusting outcome, and I think I completely agree with them. I completely agree with their attorney that they have been failed by everybody. We're talking about 15 people knew about this over the course of 7 years, and the priest penitent or the clergy penitent privilege is supposed to cover when you're, let's say this father had molested his daughter one time. He felt horrible about it. He confessed it to his clergy, and the clergy's like, okay, don't do it again. Well, this guy is coming back time and time again. Oh, yeah, I'm recording pornography of me molesting and raping my daughters and posting it on the internet. And the church is like, oh, well, you confessed it, so it's okay. I think that's kind of a one and done thing, if I'm even going to give him that one. Really, I think that when it comes to abusing children, especially violent sexual abuse like this, it needs to be 0 strikes. Like, as soon as it's confessed, he goes to jail. We need to protect children.
And that's the thing. The bishops could have reported at any time. It's not like they could have been named personally as having broken a law. Arizona is a you can report state if you want to. And the bishops allegedly, according to the reporting of Paul Resendez, called the churches up through the church's helpline, which is what they're supposed to do according to the bishop's handbook. And the lawyers, the church specifically said that they were routed to Kurt McConkie lawyers who told them, do not report. That's the issue here. And it's not just the bishops, Al. I got this from another Twitter reaction. It's that Paul Adams was excommunicated in the middle of this horrific abuse. So
exactly.
When you're excommunicated, you're taken before the stake high council. So a stake high council is typically consists of 15 men. So it's the 15 men knew a child in their board had been sexually abused, and they also did nothing, even though any individual one of them could have reported with no personal liability or any problems on their own. Anyone in Arizona can report sexual abuse if they're made aware of it. So it's not just, oh, we had 2 bad bishops. We have a whole stake high council. It's an entire system here, which was set up to make sure that these girls would continuously receive abuse that they would be, have lifelong trauma over. And now the church is taking a victory lap. We did everything that we were supposed to do by law.
This is not something for the church to take a victory lap. This is something where this needs to be the biggest black eye that the church has ever had to try and cover over. And I think that calling it a black eye in light of what the abuse that these girls suffered, I think it's fitting. The church needs to suffer because of this.
Yeah, if you go on to Sam Brunson, who runs a great blog over on By Common Consent, about the clergy penitent privilege questions and answers. And his basic conclusion here, let me boil down his basic conclusion. It says that the LDS Church should use its lobbying power to push for making clergy mandated reporters in every state. First, it protects children. Second, it protects bishops. Third, it protects the church. But what we've seen the church do time and time again is push back against mandatory reporting for priest penitent privilege, including in Utah last year, where 85% of the legislators in Utah are LDS, and the church absolutely did not come down in favor of that. They remained silent, and the word on the street is that they were against changing the Utah laws. So the church has a vast number of resources. They presumably have lobbyists that are associated with this, and they continue to prop up the priest penitent privilege when Sam Brunson's conclusion is that it should be the exact opposite, because it protects children, it protects bishops, it protects the church. There's no losers in the equation when you report sexual abuse. There's only losers if you don't. And those 2 little girls, they ended up on the short end of the stick this time.
Yeah, but I guess at least the church didn't have to shell out any money, right? And that's all they really seem to be concerned with at the end of the day here.
Well, and we've covered this before. The crazy thing is that the church, even if the church had lost this and had been forced to pay remunerations or punitive damages, the church's insurer is the one who pays these claims out. The church doesn't reach into Ensign Peak. It doesn't reach into its treasury account. It doesn't use tithing for this. The church has sexual abuse insurance, and that's who would have had the payment. So I guess the real winner in all of this is the church's sexual abuse insurer, who doesn't have to make a payout here. That's the only winner. Yeah,
this is a victory lap. The church won. These sexually abused girls lost. And the church is just saying, yes, so long, losers.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice. Here's another Twitter reaction here. I would love to see child sex abuse victims succeed more than the church that hid the abuse. But I can see now that you don't care about children being sexually abused, because if you look on the church, if you look on the Salt Lake Tribune's article, and when they reported this, you would see faithful members saying, "I love seeing the church defending itself and succeeding." So members of the church are saying, "Wait, we won. That's great. That's good news for the church. We didn't have to pay anything. We won. We succeeded." That's just another testimony builder for me.
Yeah, I don't think they're paying any attention to what they're saying, because if they knew about this, I don't think that they would ever let their children go to primary ever again. They certainly wouldn't let their children do bishops' interviews alone.
Yeah, here's a couple last memes for you here. This is the moment that you realize that the Mormon Church's moral compass for helping sexually abused kids in their congregations isn't choose the right or do what's right, let the consequences follow. Their moral compass is unapologetically do the bare minimum required by state law. So here we have a meme here. Jesus is holding a little girl, and she says to him, Mormon Jesus, 15 LDS clergy/men knew I'd been sexually abused. Why did no one report it or help me? And his response is, contrary to news reports and your exaggerated allegations, the court found that my church handled your abuse consistent with state law. That's a lot of hypocrisy there.
Yeah, exactly. That's not a very wholesome Band-Aid to put over that wound, is it?
No, I guess I could talk about this a lot more. For those of you out there, would you leave us a comment in YouTube, or if you're on Apple Podcasts, would you leave us a 5-star review? Let us know what you think should have happened in this case. We'd be very grateful for this. Now, we got a couple of other quick articles that we need to get through. These are 1-minute articles here, Al. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has offered relief in Gaza and Israel. It's very interesting when you read the statement, Al, that it doesn't say exactly how much the church is going to donate. All it says is we are going to aim to provide humanitarian assistance. Aim. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that the church is going to devote significant financial resources, but we don't get to hear how much, what, or any specifics along with this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, the church is devoting significant financial resources for critical care. It doesn't really say what they're going to do. It just says, oh, we have intent. And that's it. It doesn't say what they're going to do at all. So I guess we'll see what they end up doing.
Yep, we are not going to get to see the actual figures, the exact numbers, or anything about it. All it says is that the church is going to alleviate human suffering. But we've been in this for a month now, and we haven't seen one concrete step that the church has taken to help heal the Middle East or do anything about this horrible tragedy, even though the church has significant resources and the ability to do so. All we get is a couple of platitudes, a 2-paragraph statement 6 days after the invasion from Gaza, from Hamas killing the 1,400 people. We get a brief statement that says our hearts ache. And now a month later, we say, well, we're going to do something, but we're not going to tell you what.
Yeah, it's I think the people of Gaza would like to see something a little bit more substantial.
One would imagine so. Next article here, BYU Corner here. There's a new something that's happening in the daily universe here. This is the Integrity and Compliance Office now is going to offer a safe way for students to report non-compliance. What do you Al? What do you think's going on here at BYU with the honor code and the compliance officer? There's going to be a hotline that's going to promote a safe campus environment, protecting BYU resources, promoting compliance with the law and internal policies and procedures, and reduces financial losses due to fraud, waste, and abuse. What do you think about this compliance office and the tip line for people to report things into BYU? What do you think here, Al?
So you got a bunch of students that are feeling their conscience twinging because they feel like they're tattletaling on their roommates who are breaking the honor code or having their girlfriend or boyfriend sleep over, spend the night, and so they feel like they're being a tattletale, and they want the honor code office to erase those feelings of guilt. I'm not sure exactly what these students are feeling the need for safety in order to report.
Well, let me just read this. Let me just read this to you. Yeah. BYU freshman Porter Rasmussen from Reno, Nevada said that the hotline is a great option for students who want to keep their integrity without compromising their relationship with someone else. Quote, I think it's a good option to be able to have a place to report stuff anonymously, so you don't feel like you're betraying the person you're reporting and can feel honest without compromising yourself. So if you see someone who's wearing sandals on campus, now you can call the hotline. If you see someone whose beard is just a little untrimmed, you can call the hotline. If you see a young lady on campus whose shoulders are not properly covered, you can now snitch on them without having to contact anyone directly, so that you can maintain your personal integrity within your heart, but still rat them out to the thought police.
And still continue to associate with them. I mean, you
right.
Can rat on your friends without having it damage your friendship. You can still be friends afterwards. You know, after all, you're just looking out for their best interest by getting them kicked out of school.
Right. You can report, somebody's struggling with their testimony. Now I can report them to the extension office of the Strengthening Church Members Committee. Now we have a quick and close place for someone who's struggling with their testimony, we got to get those people rooted out. And as they're kicked out of BYU, we can still look them in the face, shake them in the hands, and stay friends with them on Facebook. This is a real testimony builder, Al.
Yeah, in a world where the church is trying so desperately to say we're not a cult, this sure feels like a cult.
This seems like a really, really sad way of, we're trying to take BYU into the 21st century, and this seems like a significant step back. And as I mentioned on this podcast many times, I taught at BYU for a very long time. I got 2 degrees at BYU. I know the kind of pressure that faculty and staff members feel to have to toe the orthodox line, and the pressure that other people can place on one another to be upstanding members of the church and never have a crack in your testimony and never do anything wrong. Okay, this seems like a big step back, in my opinion. Any last thoughts on the Integrity and Compliance Office anonymous tip line now?
President Oaks must be so proud.
The Wasatch County Council has now approved construction of the LDS Temple in Heber Valley. Al, let me play this clip for you and get your reaction to what's going on up there.
The Wasatch County Council has passed plans for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to build the Heber Valley Temple. People packed into an hours-long meeting about it yesterday. Some community members are concerned about light pollution and the project's environmental impact.
It's zoned for 35 feet tall maximum. The temple at its highest point will be 210 feet tall, 88,000 square feet, a parking lot of 454 spots.
Ultimately, the Legislative Development Agreement, plat approval for the land where the temple would be built, and site plans for the temple building were passed unanimously.
Well, it's passed unanimously, Al. We're good to go in Heber Valley. What's your thoughts about the Wasatch County stuff that's going on up there?
I wonder if anybody on the council's pockets got lined a little thicker in this process, because unanimously, they just unanimously decided to disregard the dark skies thing and put up a huge temple that's, well over 5 times the allowed height of the current code. But wow.
I don't know if anybody's pockets got lined. In the Cody, Wyoming temple about a month ago from FOIA requests, we learned that the person who donated the land to the church also offered to the city planner a job in case there was something that went wrong with the entire situation in order to try to grease the wheels. Now, when I had Patrick Mason on, I did ask him about that. He was loath to call that a bribe. But we've seen a lot of pressure that the church puts on people, and also potential financial rewards to people who are associated with this, including the construction people who are associated with this. How many people in the city council have close ties to the construction industry? How many of them are members of the church and will approve these things through without a second thought, even though there's a huge number of people in that valley, in Midway, in Heber, in that area who do not want to see this temple? It's been given the green light, and it looks like it's going to be all systems go.
Yeah, money talks, and that's all that matters, right?
In the long run, I guess it is all, money does talk, because the church has engaged in litigation here, is lawyered up, and they told Heber Valley, they told them that they're going to sue them if they don't approve this, just like the same way that they're going to sue Cody, Wyoming. They're going to push through the temple, whether you like it or not. And the city council probably saw the writing on the wall and said, why are we going to bother to draw a line in the sand? Why are we going to try to kick against the pricks when the church, it can bankrupt us with its billions? And, I know that there's a large tax base in Heber, but still, the church is going to get these things approved one way or another. It's just interesting to see the sausage being made. You know what I mean?
Oh, exactly. And once again, all of this is in accordance with the law. It's all legally up and up.
Yep, you bet it is. Absolutely. One more article here is President Nelson, as you might remember here, Al, he had a fall just before General Conference about a month ago here. And he has issued a statement here. He's been a little bit quiet on X, but he has issued a statement that says, "Thank you for your prayers for me during the last 2 months. My recovery from my fall in September when I was injured, and when I injured the muscles in my back, I have had need for your prayers. And your prayers have lifted my spirits and bolstered my courage and my great desire to soldier on. In short, the Lord has responded to your prayers and expressions of love. And thank you again, my dear brothers and sisters." And he tweeted out a picture of himself in his office in the church headquarters here. He's got the scriptures in front of him. He's got a pencil in hand. He is feeling better. and he says it's according to the prayers. What are your thoughts on President Nelson's health update?
No, he's got a big smile on his face. Must be feeling better.
Yeah, he definitely is feeling. He's definitely feeling better. Now, if you compare this is where I find some interest in this. A couple of things. First of all, on the interest, if you compare the picture of the inside of his office with this is the picture that he tweeted out recently. This is the recent picture here. Al. Okay, that's what we're looking at. Now I'm going to show you a picture of what he tweeted out from the inside of his office a couple of months prior. Let's see if you can see the difference. Okay. Do you see any difference between the picture that he tweeted out a couple of months ago and this picture? It's kind of like, can you see any difference in between these pictures?
That one he's standing. So a couple months ago, he's standing behind his chair.
True.
In front of the same pictures. And
yeah, but it's the pictures in particular that I'm interested here in.
Oh, you're right. Wendy's there, but his first wife is no longer.
Danchel, I think her name is Danchel, I believe.
Yeah, I believe that's right.
So like a year ago, when this was tweeted out in November of 2023, excuse me, when this was tweeted out, I think it was last year, you had both of his polygamous wives' pictures behind him. But now, Al, what do you notice when you look behind him now?
I don't know what that big white paper is. Looks like maybe some sort of an award or accreditation. I think he's trying to do away with that polygamous image, so he's only allowed to have the picture of one of his wives on there. And I guess he picked his favorite.
I'm not sure about that, but yeah, so she's gone. First wife is gone. We don't want to have a polygamous image, which is from the previous picture with both of his polygamous wives there. Instead, we're just going to have one. And it's funny that you mentioned that because Al, when you look behind him, the pictures that you see behind him, this is celebrating 5 years of inspired leadership. That's his 5-year message to himself. This says, congrats on your 5 years of inspired leadership. It's literally an award to himself. And also before that, 4 years of inspired leadership. So these are all the awards to himself that he's replaced Danchel with. These awards and accolades for his own inspired leadership.
I think this is the sort of guy who throws a birthday party for himself. And if nobody else is coming, he's going to wrap his own presents. He's going to make his own cake, and he's going to very boisterously sing "Happy Birthday to Me." Yeah.
Well, his 100th party, I'm sure, is going to be off the hook. That much is for sure. And I do wonder if it'll kind of be like Wilfred Woodruff when he had 130 girls sealed to him for his one of his birthday parties too. I wonder if that's going to happen again. I'd be really interested to see that if that was the case.
Hey, as long as it's in accordance with the laws.
I guess so. And this is from Enos Envy. Glad to see President Nelson is up and about again. I see you've removed the picture of your other wife from the office, which was awkward. That celestial polygamy is going to be nuts, Al.
Yes, it is.
And that does, let me give you one more Twitter reaction here. And this is from Brother Mike. It says, it's nice that you are no longer in pain, Mr. Nelson. But the idea that God withholds health or healing from people until enough people have prayed to him, it's as if I get 1,000 likes challenge, it doesn't speak well. So it's kind of like, well, if I get enough people praying for me, I'm going to recover. It's like the 1,000 like challenge. I didn't know that was the way that it worked. In fact, I didn't know that there's anything that we can link these prayers to his recovery or anything at all. I just wish that we had a way to link those things together.
Sure makes God sound petty.
Yeah, if you get 10,000 likes, then God heals you. If you get 10,000 prayers, then you're on God's side. But if you don't get enough prayers, then I guess you're on your own. Seems like a pretty myopic way of looking at things.
Oh, I love that word, myopic.
All right, Al, one last thought about this. He is signing something on his desk. I tried to zoom in and see what it was, but I wasn't able to figure it out. But I do have some ideas that I want to run past you about things that I think that he might be signing.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay, so number one, I think he's probably signing the 13F forms for Ensign Peak. What do you think?
It could be, yeah.
Yeah, now that they're actually legal and now that they've been fixed from having 23 years of lies, now he could feel comfortable about signing them since he's not authorizing something that's fraudulent.
Yeah. And they still get to keep $150 billion.
Yeah, for sure. So now he'll have no problem signing those 13Fs. So maybe that's what he's doing. Or, Al, maybe he's signing the latest LDS Podcaster excommunication authorizations.
I wonder whose names are on that list.
Hopefully not mine. Or a couple of other ideas. I have a bunch of ideas here. Maybe it's a routine denial of a trans person first presidency petition to get married in the temple. That's going to be routinely denied, right?
I wouldn't put it past him.
For sure. Or maybe it's a substantial check to the church's anti-LGBTQ lobbying firm. Gee, I wonder what firm the church does engage, is writing checks to for those anti-LGBTQ legislation. I do wonder that.
Yeah, that would be a pretty big check. I mean, it's bigger than a regular 8.5 by 11 piece of paper.
Yeah, it's a lot more than I'm making on a Patreon. I can tell you that.
Yeah.
For sure. Or maybe it's the final go ahead for another lawyer to join the quorum of the 70. That's inspiring. The final authorization there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we sure do love our lawyers.
Sure. Or maybe it's the final approval to sue another tiny town to ram through an improperly zoned giant monstrosity of a temple.
Yeah, I mean, those pesky small towns are given a lot of pushback. Maybe that's why they're going after small towns to put up temples in rather than bigger cities. Smaller towns have a smaller budget.
Interesting thought there. Or maybe it's another handsome royalty contract for yet another ghost-written book deal with Deseret Book.
Yeah, this one I guess could be titled, "Give me 1,000 likes and prayers, and the Lord will heal me," or something.
Yeah, and by the way, he owns Deseret Book because it's a corporation soul. So those royalty checks is kind of like him paying himself. That's inspiring, Al.
That is inspiring, but it sure looks like he would be doing something, right?
It definitely does. By the way, I have this leaked. I haven't confirmed it, but somebody did an analysis of President Nelson's royalties from just his Amazon books. And it's according to the leaked document. I don't have it for sure. Just on Amazon, from his 10 or so books that are on there, he makes about $260,000 a year just on Amazon. That doesn't include Deseret Book or anything else. So yeah, he's bringing home the bacon. And maybe this is just another contract for him to sign another ghostwritten book.
Probably.
It could be. I don't know. Or maybe, Al, maybe it's a personal and heartfelt thank you note to those Curtin McConkie lawyers who repeatedly told those Arizona bishops not to report the 7 years of horrific abuse. Maybe it's a personal thank you note to them.
Yeah, they really knocked it out of the park with that one. They sure protected the church's finances.
Yeah, so a heartfelt note seems appropriate. That'd be something I would put up on my wall if I was one of those lawyers. Okay, let me keep going here. Maybe it's a quick note, Al, to the BYU Honor Code office that the Lord still hates same-sex hand-holding on campus.
Yeah, can't let the girls hold hands while they're walking to class.
Absolutely not. Or maybe it's a memo to the director of Ensign Peak, because Jesus wants his church to own more than $3 billion in Apple stock, because the church owns like 3.2. But maybe it's a quick memo over to him that he gets prayers at night where he sends Wendy out, that the Lord has told him that it's not 3.2, that we really need to up that Apple stock. Maybe that's what it is.
I guess somebody taught him how to use his iPhone, huh?
A couple of other ideas. I know I've been thinking a lot about this, probably too long. Maybe it's a letter to the church's PR department to put out an immediate press release to remind the world that there is absolutely no proof that Tim Ballard has had his second anointing.
Yeah, his second what? Oh, I don't know that we do that in this church, do we?
I don't know. Maybe it's a reminder to the correlation department that during the next general conference, make sure that no actual evidence for truth claims sneaks in. Just keep repeating the same non-evidentiary claims time and time again.
And pay your tithing.
For sure. Or maybe it's a note to Mike Levitt, the president of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. And maybe it's a note to Governor Levitt there that ever since President Nelson got that Morehouse College Mandela Gandhi and the Martin Luther King Prize that he earned last year, that we need more blacks in the choir, or as Joseph Fielding Smith would say, darkies. Maybe it's a note to him.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the guy have somebody to focus in on at every general conference, right?
Absolutely. Or a couple last ones here. Maybe it's a strongly worded rebuke to President Ballard for his close ties to a credibly accused sexual deviant and fraudster. Al, just kidding. That would never happen.
Oh no, that's different, right?
Yeah, that's the only joke in this, is because that would literally never happen. Now, Al, actually, in all seriousness, this is what I hope that it is. I hope it is a letter to my stake president letting him know that there's no need to withdraw my membership.
Yeah, I think you're okay.
Or the last one. This is the last one. I really hope that this the picture here, Al, is a picture of President Nelson giving the final approval for him to personally join the Mormon News Roundup Patreon page. That's
Hey, we'll take what we can get, right?
as you can tell, Al, I could riff on this picture forever. This is just a great picture. For those of you out there in the live chat, let us know, what do you think that President Nelson is signing here? We'd really like to know. Now, that does take us to our final article here, our featured news article of the week here, Al, which is the Ballard and Ballard scandal. Tim Ballard, Russell Ballard. The Ballard zaniness has continued here. So for those of you, let's bring you up to date here. In case you haven't been following this, let me play this clip and get your reaction to it about what's going on with Ballard and Ballard this week.
One of the most prominent leaders in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is accused of violating church policy by sharing members' tithing records. Elder M. Russell Ballard is acting president of the church's Quorum of the 12. The accusation is part of a lawsuit filed by 5 women against Operation Underground Railroad and its former CEO, Tim Ballard. Tim Ballard is not related to President Ballard. The lawsuit states that Davis County investigators found out President Ballard and other, quote, authorities leaked the tithing records to OUR to help the nonprofit target wealthy donors. Tim Ballard says the accusation is not true. The lawsuit also accuses the church of continuing to promote OUR even after publicly condemning Tim Ballard earlier this year for, quote, morally unacceptable behavior. Today, the church told Fox 13 News they regard tithing records as sacred and keep them confidential. President Ballard has, quote, never released tithing records to Operation Underground Railroad or any other organization, unquote.
Okay, Al, what's your initial reaction to this news story from this week?
Oh, my initial reaction is this is the big juicy. And what is so juicy about it is we've learned from past experience with the church, you have to pay very careful attention to the specific wording used. And we're going to see that in this. So I'm all geared up for this one. Let's get into it.
Yes, this is very, very juicy stuff. Okay, so you're right. The church's statement here is very important, which we're going to cover in a moment because the church reacted to this, which they don't always do. I mean, sometimes they just let things simmer under the covers and they don't let you know. So first of all, the church,
if they can help it, yeah.
But the cat is out of the bag. Haha, pun, right? Okay. So, yeah, the church released a statement here. This was covered by Peggy Fletcher Stack. And let me just give you her summarization, which I think is a pretty decent summarization. It says, here's the latest in the M. Russell Ballard and LDS tithing saga. In a word, the church says he didn't do it. Al, rest assured, he didn't do it. The church has released a statement. Are you satisfied?
I guess I should be because, well, the Lord's anointed have spoken, so, or the brethren have spoken. The brother has spoken. So the thinking's been done. No, I've got questions.
If the Lord has spoken and the thinking is done, I'm overthinking this one. So the comments, the people are no dodos, Al. If you look in the comments section, they're very, very good comments. Look at this. It says, does that mean that Tim Ballard somehow obtained the information illegally? Is that the accusation? And Peggy Fletcher Stack says, well, it could just mean that he bragged about records that he never had. So Tim Ballard is saying that he obtained these records, and how in the world did he get them? The LDS Church has demonstrated a pattern of dishonesty and cover-ups. They have zero integrity. Okay, the day of reckoning is close at hand. And when the church said this, that Ballard didn't do it. Did they follow up with saying, just trust us? They're getting absolutely roasted in the comments section here for this incredibly pathetic response.
Yeah, we often find ourselves with strange bedfellows when they follow the same behavior that we do when it comes to deceiving and lying.
Yeah, so the church's statement here, it says, let me just give you the summary here, Al. It says a senior apostle with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, quote, has never released tithing records to Operation Underground Railroad or any other organization, end quote, a church spokesman said on Monday. And one of the Twitter reactions I came across says, well, I obviously don't know what happened, but these kind of statements are always really interesting to me. The accusation is not necessarily that he released records, but that he provided names. Is this a very carefully worded denial, Al?
I think Eli McCann is spot on. So the church is saying they didn't release tithing records. Well, okay, so they didn't allow, that's like saying, well, they didn't allow Tim Ballard to look at membership records, but it doesn't mean that the accusation is that M. Russell Ballard directed Tim Ballard to wealthy members of the church based off of the tithing declarations that they had made, saying, well, here's people that have money that might be willing to donate to your cause.
Yeah, I mean, so the statement says that M. Russell Ballard never released it to an organization, but he didn't say that he didn't release it to a person, Tim Ballard.
Yeah.
Right. You know, or that M. Russell Ballard asked someone else to do it. You know, he's got a lot of minions that work for him. He picks up the phone. He says, release all this information to OER. And then someone else did the releasing. That the statement also doesn't say that someone else didn't give the information to OUR.
Exactly. Somebody asks you if you ate lunch today, and you answer, I didn't have a sandwich.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or maybe President Ballard just got the information, left it on his desk, and left the room, and then Tim Ballard looked at it. Okay, he didn't directly give it to him. This statement leaves everything wide open. It doesn't say in no circumstances did anyone at church headquarters release tithing records to anyone for any reason. That's what I would expect if everything was on the up and up. This is an incredibly carefully worded denial.
Yeah, exactly. There's just so much room for wiggle there. And boy, the church loves to wiggle.
Yeah, and a big story that also landed from this week here is that Russell Brunson, who's a Mormon millionaire, he said that he refuted the church's claims that there was no connection in between, that there was no pressure or releasing of the records between M. Russell Ballard and Tim Ballard, when he said, quote, the way that I found out about Tim Ballard and Operation Underground Railroad was actually from Elder Ballard. He personally called me and asked me to help Tim Ballard and OUR. I've literally sat in the room with them to discuss these things and these ideas. And this really goes back to Lynn Packard's reporting here, which I want to play for you, Al, and get your reaction.
The Mormon Church denounced Tim Ballard. Brunson wasted no time defending him against what Brunson claimed were false allegations. Brunson said he knew because he had sat in the same room with Tim Ballard and Russell Ballard to discuss matters.
Hey, my name is Russell Brunson, for those who don't know me. I make this video to talk about Tim Ballard. A lot of you guys know that he's someone who we have been supporting for the last few years. So the most recent article that came out was basically saying that the Mormon Church was against Tim Ballard and this whole huge thing, and it's this big scandal. And it's interesting because the way that I found out about Tim Ballard and Operation Underground Railroad was actually from Elder Ballard. He personally called me and asked me to help Tim Ballard in Operation Underground Railroad. I literally sat in the rooms with Elder Ballard and Tim Ballard as we discussed these things and these ideas. The accusations that they're being made on the media are not true. As someone who was literally in the room when these conversations were happening, just be fully aware he's being attacked from the outside. This is not the truth. Okay, this is not the truth. Again, and this comes from someone who literally, I've been in the rooms with him and Elder Ballard talking about these things. Okay, I've been in the rooms. Elder Ballard's one who introduced me. Tim never came to me and told me some big story about Elder Ballard and tried to get me in. It was the opposite way around. Okay, so fully you need to understand this is the way it's actually working. This is the actual truth, not some rogue employee who got fired because they were bad at their job.
With friends like Brunson, Tim and Russell Ballard don't need enemies. Brunson's statement is the strongest proof that Russell Ballard was deeply involved with Tim Ballard's business ventures. In this case, Russell Ballard helping seek millionaire funding for the for-profit movie Operation Toussaint.
Okay, Al, so what's your reaction to Russell Brunson saying that the reason that he was brought to Tim Ballard to give donations to Tim Ballard, which he presumably did, was that President Ballard called him up on the phone and said, it's time to support Operation Underground Railroad and Tim Ballard. Is that not linking potential donors? Is that not in direct opposition to what the church has said in their statement?
Well, here's the thing. It goes with a lot of very specific wording. So what the church has said is that M. Russell Ballard did not hand over tithing records.
Right.
Once again, Russell Brunson's not saying that tithing records were handed over. He's saying that he was called into a meeting with M. Russell Ballard and Tim Ballard, and all of these things were discussed. And M. Russell Ballard, who, if an apostle doesn't speak for the church, who does? He's saying you should donate to Tim Ballard's cause. And that's Russell Brunson. So if the church wants to sue him for defamation or libel, then libel, not liable, then they're welcome to do it. But really, this is a he said situation. You have M. Russell Ballard denying that it happened, and you have Russell Brunson insisting that it happened. He said.
Yeah, absolutely. I would not be surprised at all if more donors are going to come out eventually that said that they received calls from President Nelson. I would not be surprised at all. I would be surprised if we didn't hear more people like Russell Brunson saying that they were contacted by President Ballard to donate to OUR. And you are right, Al. It's not technically a lie because they said they didn't release tithing records, but they didn't say that President Nelson was trying to get people to donate to OUR. And this is the most important thing from the accusation here, is that the Zelf on the Self points this out to say, well, there's nothing to see here. Just an LDS apostle doing personal marketing calls for a scam artist off of whom he's financially profiting, because the allegation is that President Ballard invested in the for-profit portion of OUR. Now he's asking millionaire Mormons to donate to something for which he is allegedly financially profiting. Does it get any more gross than this?
Interesting, isn't it? Yeah, it is gross.
Yeah, I mean, so Russell Brunson, who's, by the way, the co-founder of an Eagle, Idaho digital marketing firm, claimed in a social media video that in September that M. Russell Ballard introduced him to Tim Ballard for the purpose of donating to OUR. And the crazy thing about this article is that this was initially brought to us by ABC 4 News. And the church allegedly called ABC4 News, asked them to take down that particular article, which was eventually carried by Yahoo, and it was eventually taken down off of Yahoo as well. It appears that the church does not want this article and these connections to be brought to light. But if everything's on the up and up, then what's the issue? That's what I'm wondering.
Exactly. Why is the church engaging in so much damage control if there's no damage to be done?
Yeah, exactly. M. Russell Ballard, Utah's ABC affiliate ran the story and then pulled it back within 24 hours. And Russell Brunson, he's the founder of ClickFunnels. That's a marketing firm. He claims that the church, that again, Elder Ballard set up a meeting with him, and Yahoo News, they yanked it, but it has been archived before. So this seems to really confirm what everyone has been saying all along, that the church that Elder Ballard in particular was trying to connect wealthy Mormons with Tim Ballard. That seems to go against everything that the church teaches about using your position in the church for potential personal financial enrichment. And especially considering President Ballard's incredibly spotty track record and history of illicit endeavors, including penny stocks and other things that were brought up by Lynn Packard. This just fits. The shoe fits here for exactly what the accusations are.
Yep. Do as I say, not as I do, right?
Yeah, and that's the most amusing thing here. We did cover this last week, but the church has a statement in the church's handbook that talks about the impropriety of sharing personal tithing donations to others. And I just want the Enos Envy again tweeted this out here, which I think is very interesting because we covered this last week. That in the handbook in 34.4, it says that only certain individuals should hand over contributions, and stake presidency, bishops, and clerks should never inappropriately discuss a member's tithing status. But technically, if you think about this, Al, and this is kind of crazy, the Mormon Church's office building needs to be office building needs to update the handbook to include apostles in the list of callings that shouldn't be inappropriately discussing the confidential tithing information of the members. Because in the handbook, it only says that bishops, stake presidents, and clerks shouldn't do it. Apostles apparently can do whatever they want.
Well, I mean, very much anybody above an area authority 70 can do it, right? According to this.
Exactly. A couple of memes to go along with this one. We're getting ready to wrap this one up, but a couple of memes here. You remember that old saying from President Ballard there, just trust us wherever you are in the world?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, we're just as transparent as we know how to be. Just trust us, Al. Why can't people just trust him?
Maybe because he's proving to be a charlatan.
It's hard to put a lot of trust into President Ballard at this moment. In fact, quite the opposite. How about another meme here for you? How it started, this is tithing records and wealthy donors. This is, on the Titanic there, you have Leonardo DiCaprio. You have Kate Winslet. You know, the voice. What's that song? The voice will go on.
My heart will go on.
Oh, right, my heart will go on. It started off great, Al, and guess where we're ending up? This is how it's going now. It's not going quite so well.
He's flipping the bird to I Heart Nephi.
Yeah, it's not quite going as well as it once did, Al. Any last thoughts on the Ballard and Ballard absolute mess?
I think it's really interesting how things quickly change about how they're proud to share the last name, and now, we're not related. We're not related at all.
Yeah, it's just amazing. I don't know, but I like to cover articles that show hypocrisy or irony, and this is just a very, very juicy one. We're going to be covering this on the Mormon News Roundup.
Oozing with hypocrisy.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be covering this on the Mormon News Roundup, so you definitely want to stick with us because we're going to give you all of the juicy details. I do have a major announcement before we let everybody go. I do have a major announcement that I would like to make, and that's that, Al, back in the day, you helped me form the Mormon Movie Reviews channel. You remember that?
I do. Yeah.
Now, that channel, by the way, which is on YouTube, Mormon Movie Reviews, it didn't get a lot of hits. And what I'm going to do, Al, is that I'm going to release I have 90 episodes there on the Mormon Movie Reviews channel, which you helped out with a great deal. I have 90 episodes. Problem is they have very few views. And I don't want to maintain two channels at the same time. So, Al, this is the major announcement for this week. I'm going to release all of those Mormon movie reviews onto the Mormon News Roundup channel every Monday night at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can come with us in the live chat and review with me all of these old Mormon classics. Like the first episode here is The Windows of Heaven. What's that all about, by the way, Al?
Okay, so let's see. We did. I remember doing an episode about The Windows of Heaven with you. I don't think it got released, but so The Windows of Heaven is about Lorenzo Snow basically making tithing mandatory in the church.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
It's a really interesting story. And if you grew up watching any of these church videos, then you're going to love them. D-Base does a real deep dive into the background and a lot of the details of these movies and the movie making process, the actors, the church's involvement, and also how the message that the church has put out through the media of videos has changed and evolved over the years. Really excellent channel, and I think you're going to enjoy it.
Yeah, I certainly do. So you'll see that we're going to watch these old movies together. I'll be in the right-hand corner giving some nice commentary that's associated with that. And we'll be doing that in the live chat. This is a deep dive into all of these old Mormon movies. And like I said, we got 90 episodes. Al, you helped out a great deal with quite a few of these episodes. We have Under the Banner of Heaven, which we did together. We also, on here is Mormon No More. We have Keep Sweet, Pray, and Obey. You helped out with a lot of these reviews. We're going to release them onto the Mormon News Roundup every Monday night at 9:30. So if you like old Mormon movies, old LDS classics, and even some contemporary stuff, join us every Monday night at 9:30. We'd be very grateful for that. Any last thoughts on the news this week, Al?
No, I'm glad that I was able to come back this week and help you do the news on this one.
Yeah, if you want to support this podcast, we do have a Patreon site. We'd be very, very grateful for any support that you're able to offer that. And a reminder, we have new episodes every Sunday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll have new episodes of the Mormon News Roundup. And every Monday night, we will have Mormon movie review episodes and live watching events. We'll do a sit down, watch a live stream of Saturday's Warrior or of Legacy or some of these old classics, not necessarily a review, but we'll do a live watch party. So if you're into Mormon cinema, if you love LDS old movies as much as Al and I do, join us on Monday nights at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Al, can you take us out?
We want to give a shout out to Weird Alma on Bandcamp.com for this episode's music. Thanks so much for ruminating with us on the great and spacious beehive. And remember, no unhallowed hand can stop this podcast from progressing.
So long.
When it comes to nicknames of the church, such as LDS Church, the Mormon Church, to remove the Lord's name from the Lord's church is a major victory for Satan.
Satan.